Tanihinathligi, Taisnotagi, Shaya, Niagara, Rockbridge, and Shia. Kia Ani Nishlet, Ashkanzo, a Bashichin, Nakidina, a Dashiche, Dorotohan, a Dashanale. She Nakidamil Daba Anna, Din Sai Hahagi, Don Nakidamil Daba Anna, Din Naki Hahagi, the Nebich Ekinishle. And lay Talana Tasaka, Aha will get the Ontishke, a condebek it bar Hodzan. E ade on nashalto ad e shenale kedate. Nadina ke e shenache. Shmado je e debrado geri Rockbridge olya. Belkaije e din ka go shena sheholo dot asa asatele sheholo. Akut au e jeke nashle dot oyana nat enike de deshni. En de daike he kodo shitsuin liningi Miss Edgewater ad in de kodo kheshin. Binanish a day lagi do any do a cat nihidini do let or kododan hinasiki. DJ a ya con she halet out the nebich can't sadly ingi a she nihil ishtana a dish do screen share she. Okay. Hagoshi. All right. Di Bakaagi, my journey to becoming Miss Navajo Nation. From the office of Miss Navajo Nation, Shije Niagara Rockbridge do Adihahagi do Nadina ki Hajan a Konshin the Nebich a Kent Nashni do in the Daega Kon Nihita Hadesha do Nihita Yaha Shizachi that deep up dome. Kon Bakaagi who is Niagara Rockbridge. Kailand and Shintanosen, Kododan Hinafigi. A call in the 2017, I graduated from Pinon High School. The yaha atka inshtra to akut outanaunish ishla. I'm a former Miss Pinon High School. Kojo orange yiki and that was the crown before it was redesigned as the way that it looks now on the current serving Miss Pinon High School. In Dida I was a part of different CTE programs inside the Pinon Unified School District. The first is the Future Farmers of America. And I was a part of the FFA program where I worked at the land lab, where I worked with Mrs. McLaughlin, who now is in a different position at the high school. And then I also worked with Mr. Jackson at the time, who was the CTE program individual for construction technology. And I worked with him at that capacity. And so I'm just like you, for those out there who are watching, who are in the school system. I graduated from Pinon in the top 5 of my class, and I helped a lot of people throughout the time in Pinon High School with different community events and community services. And after I had graduated Pinon, I had actually taken a couple months off, and I decided to go on a different adventure, and I went ahead and did that. And later on, I graduated actually this year from Dine College with my AA in social and behavioral sciences. So I graduated in May of 2021, and I was able to attain that degree there at Dine College. I am also the first chairwoman of the Navajo Nation Youth Advisory Council, where I represented there for 3 years, and I represented the central agency. There below, you can see us in a meeting in one of the rooms at the office of the president and vice president's building, and we were all in a meeting. I'm the one with the CES way back there. And we were discussing different ways that we could help our people in strategic planning. So that's who I am, and I've had many different roles throughout my time before becoming Miss Navajo, what's leading up to becoming Miss Navajo, learning the different ways and techniques of political answers, diplomatic answers, and things of that matter. Those are all the things that I had did before becoming Miss Navajo. And before I get into what my journey is, I would like to let you know what the history of the Miss Navajo Nation pageant is all about. And so the Miss Navajo Nation pageant began in 1952 with the first Miss Navajo being Dr. Beulah Allen. And during this time, their pageant was nothing like how it is right now. There was an applause competition where contestants vying for the title would stand in front of an audience, and the young lady who received the loudest applause would be crowned Miss Navajo. And this was all come about from an actual movie production from LA, where a Vilagana man had came out and wanted someone to represent the Navajo people. And so he lined up a row of beautiful Navajo women, and he put his hat on top of them, and the crowd would cheer for them. Whoever had the loudest applause was who was crowned Miss Navajo at the time. And so now replacing the applause competition is a 4-day competition that involves both the Navajo and modern way of life and the traditional and contemporary skills talents competition. And that is what is currently being exercised today in the pageant that I participated in this year. In 1996, the traditional sheep butchering contest was incorporated to demonstrate a young lady's knowledge of preparing traditional foods. And that was implemented by the young lady here in the red, Dr. Audra Platero. And she was the one who had integrated the sheep butchering competition into the Miss Navajo pageant. And the most important qualification for the Miss Navajo pageant is to be fluent in the Navajo and English languages. The contestant must fill the requirements of having knowledge of the Navajo culture and tradition. In 2010, Winifred Jumbo was introduced as the first Miss Navajo Nation. Before that, they were just Miss Navajo. And so she attained this new title, and it was changed to represent the position as of Miss Navajo Nation, so that she represents the entirety of the tribal governance system. And going forward in 2016-17, when Miss Navajo Nation Rhonda Joe was giving up her title, she had removed the traditional 5 bread making contest. So there was a 5 bread making contest and the tortilla bread making contest, and that's what would take place after the butchering. However, she removed that during that time, and she replaced it with the traditional foods competition. And that's what we have today and what we are actually using in the competition as we speak now. And these competition categories that I'll be naming off here that I competed in are all subject to change. And so as we go forward, it's important to know that these can also change over time, just like how Miss Jo did hers as well. And so preparation for the 2021 Miss Navajo Nation pageant. And you're probably wondering, how did I prepare to get to where I am today? Well, the first title that I ever held, as you can see there, says Niagra 08. That is the very first title I held. I was Miss Primary Cottonwood Day School, and I was only 5 years old at the time. And I went to school at Cottonwood Day School from 1st grade to 8th grade, and I graduated from there and moved on to Pinon High School. And I represented the school district at that time, and in all of these different capacities. And the last title that I held before becoming Miss Navajo Nation was Miss Indian Arizona, which you can see off there as well next to the picture. And I represented Miss Indian Arizona and all 22 tribal nations for a term of 1 year. And I was only 19 years old at that time. And which, if you combine what year that is now, 2021, and I'm Miss Navajo, And then the first time that I've ever held that title, it's 17 years of pageant experience. And so I have been running in pageants and participating within the pageant industry for an extensive amount of time, 17 years, almost 20 years of knowledge and know-how that I've had to accumulate for this entire time. It was not easy at the beginning, and how I became Miss Navajo now is definitely not what I presented when I was only 5 years old. You know, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. It was my very first pageant at that time. But as time went on, I learned and I was able to grow my knowledge as well too. And I have been able to attain many different titles between the Miss Primary Cottonwood Day School and Miss Indian Arizona, and to now Miss Navajo Nation. So there were a number of different titles that I was able to hold throughout this entirety of 17 years. And so preparation for the Miss Navajo Nation pageant is the application process, picking that up. What does that look like? Or this time around for the Miss Navajo pageant, our program supervisor, Carletta Benali, she was very organized and very determined to have a smooth running pageant this year. And so the competition process was picking up the application, filling it out, and then turning that application in and attending orientation. After you have submitted all your documents and everything that you need to become a contestant and possibly a contestant until it's determined that you have all the meet the requirements and the qualifications, then you are then sashed as the Miss Navajo Nation contestant, which you can see there below. Shandine, former Miss Navajo Parish, sashing me as Miss Navajo Nation contestant. And then following that, we had a photo shoot and official announcement, which we can see off there in the turquoise mint green dress that I'm in. So that was one of the official photos of me becoming a Miss Navajo Nation contestant. And throughout this entire process, you are preparing, you are practicing, you are trying to find a way to where you can feel comfortable in whatever it is that you are going to be doing, because each of every contestant has a different skill, a different talent, a different platform, and even different ways of butchering. And so it's important to always practice and remember how it is that you were brought up and how it is that you were taught to do all of these different traditional aspects of living. And so once all of that time passes we had our orientation in July, we also were able to participate in different activities like Shema storytelling. We also participated in that. And then, following, there was given time for us to practice and to prepare for this week-long competition. And the first day of competition, and the most exciting day that everyone looks forward to, is the butchering competition. And so in this instance, day one is butchering, intestine cleaning, and meat cutting. So the butchering competition portion of this pageant, you have a 1 hour time limit. You are judged on this time around on 4 criteria. So cutting of the neck, as at the gish, and then skinning, and then intestine cleaning, and the dismemberment of the sheep, and then that's where the akis comes into play. So those were the 4 categories that we were judged in as far as the competition goes. And each judging portion of this, you are given a certain amount of points allotted, a certain amount of points, and the judges go around at the same time and they're asking you traditional questions of why are you cutting that area? What purpose does that serve? And all of these different questions that you are being asked while you're butchering within this 1 hour time limit. So you have to know how to remain focused on what your overall goal is, and that is finishing butchering your sheep, but also answering the questions in a knowledgeable manner. And I, during this time of this pageant, was the only one to complete the entirety before the allotted time of 1 hour. So I was able to butcher before the 1 hour time limit. And I was the only one, unfortunately, to do that. But the other two were also, the contestants were assisted by their volunteers and assistants. After the butchering competition was the intestine cleaning. And the intestine cleaning, there was a 30-minute time limit. This 30-minute time limit, you had to clean the entire, everything. And so you had to dump out all of the chaw and everything, cleaning it. And while you're doing that, the judges are also walking around again, and they want you to name the different intestines, all of these different names of it. They want you to name those. And what are they used for? How do you use it? All of these different things are being asked while you are cleaning out the intestines, and you are supposed to prepare them. After you get finished with this portion of it, you move on to another portion. But this portion of it, again, it is a 30-minute time limit. And again, I was the only one to complete this competition as well. So the other two contestants were trying the best that they could to complete this competition, but you have to also keep in mind how stressful this competition is. It seems easier when you're watching from home or when you're watching, from your phone or anything of that manner, but actually participating in the competition and taking part of it is a completely different perspective. It's something that you really cannot describe. Your adrenaline is rushing, you're excited, you want to finish it and feel like, yes, I did that. That's what you want to feel during that time. So after the intestine cleaning portion of the competition, you move on to the meat cutting competition, which you can see down below. I am cutting the aklan, and you have a 30-minute time limit to do that as well. And you present 2 cuts of meat. So one to make that you use when making stew. So when you make like pork, and then the other one is kind of like the really thinning of the meat to kind of make it like a jerky. And so that thin one, the one that we always like to eat when we're at the flea market or something like that, that's the kind that we have to demonstrate. And then also taking apart the bone. So how do you do that? And can you successfully do it is what they're looking at this time. And so you have 30 minutes to do that. But, during this time, I practiced and I knew what I was doing as well too. So I had learned this from my mom, from my grandma, my great grandma, my nallis. So all of these people are who has allowed me to be where I am today and have given me the knowledge that I have now to do this and be a part of the competition and become Miss Navajo. So it's a lot more than just running in a pageant and seeing it from the film. It's actually truly preparing months, years before the pageant day even comes. And so this is also day 1 of the competition. In the morning, we finished with the 3 categories of butchering, intestine cleaning, and meat cutting. After that, we moved on to the afternoon of the traditional foods competition. And the first competition was fire building. You have a 5-minute time limit. The judging criteria are techniques of how you build your fire and how fast you can get your fire started. Remember that you only have 5 minutes to do so. And so next to the wording of day 1, you can see me building my fire and getting that prepared. And then there were 3 categories that were in this traditional foods competition. The first one was how to make chin, and then how to make chilohue or te, the Navajo tea. And over there on the corner of next to where I'm building a fire, you can see me preparing my chin. And so we had to prepare all of those foods for the judges. And then next there, the next photo, you see me stirring my food, and that is squash, corn, and there was a choice of a 3rd ingredient. So one of the contestants did bell pepper, the other did, I'm not too sure, she did also like peppers and chilies. And so I used cabbage in mine, and I cooked it with akatlana, so the really thick, the one that's usually around the abid. So that's the one that I used to grease the pan and then fry the squash, corn, and cabbage. And then they called it intestine goulash. So basically you were required to cut up the liver, the heart, and the lungs. So, and some of the intestines. So like the ajay, azid, ajay zoli, you know, all of these different things, whatever that was left over there, that's what you had to use, and then cook it as well on the pan, which you can see me doing down below. I'm preparing all of the intestines for cooking time to come. And so you were judged on a criteria of taste, texture, the process of which you're doing it, and also your readiness. Readiness meaning how cooked was your food? Was it cooked to the proper temperature? Was it fully cooked? The process of which you got everything done from start to finish. And so all of these were judged, and you had to wait. So there was 30 minutes for chin chin and Navajo tea, 30 minutes for squash, corn, and in my case, cabbage, and then 30 minutes for the intestine goulash again. And you were judged on all of these in different categories on this criteria down below. And so these are just some photos from the competition that took place. And after that, much like what the history says on the Miss Navajo Nation pageant, it's very important to know how to maneuver between the two worlds that we have now, and knowing how to speak your language, the Nebazad, knowing how to speak the English language, and your know-how in terms of the Navajo history, government, and things of that matter. And so in talking about that, you know, it's very important to know what could be asked if you were asked, you know, anything is possible when in the position of Miss Navajo Nation. And that's one of the things that they really instilled within us during the competition, is there are so many things that could be asked from a number of different people, leaders, dignitaries. And so during this day 2 competition, there was the business interview and traditional knowledge competition. The business interview was a 30-minute time limit, and you had 10 questions. The judging criteria for this competition for business interview was creative and critical thinking, historical and contemporary knowledge. So they asked a number of different questions, and some of them you would not even really think, you know, what does that mean? How does that fit into becoming Miss Navajo? But when you really look at it and listen to it, you are the goodwill ambassador of the Navajo Nation, of your people. And so you're expected to have, if not as much knowledge as the president and any other leader that there is out there. And so some of the questions that were asked, remember we were being asked 10 questions. 2 of the questions that we were being asked was describe how economic opportunities can increase at the chapter houses. So that was a very interesting question to get. And I know when discussing economic opportunities on the Navajo Nation, we all know that we can extend our infrastructure on the Navajo Nation to help our Navajo-owned businesses, to help our people come home, and also get the different job systems going here on the nation so we can start that economic development here on the Navajo Nation. So those are some of the things that I touched base on when answering this question during the competition. The next question was describe the Navajo Nation government-to-government relationship with the United States. And so this question was very interesting to me, because while I was at college, in college, I took a number of different classes, Navajo government and history. And during that time, it really opened my eyes to how the Navajo Nation and the United States work together. Again, being a part of the Navajo Nation Youth Council, I was able to work with all 3 branch leaders and see how our government-to-government systems are working together to help one another get the modern conveniences that we have today, and that we will continue to build upon as the years come and go. So those were some of the things that I outlined in this question here below. The traditional knowledge competition is also a 30-minute time limit, and you are given 10 questions. And the judging criteria is basically the same thing: creative and critical thinking, historical and traditional knowledge. And some of the questions asked was, how has your upbringing helped you in running for Miss Navajo Nation? They asked you, things like that. And then I answered them back and told them, so that's the way that I answered them. It's from my father's side of the family, and my uncles on my dad's side, my dad, these different people, Joe James Lee, it's important to know that even though I am where I am today, I am still learning. Even though I'm 22 years old, I'm still learning our culture. I'm still learning our language. I'm still learning who I am as a Dine woman and what more knowledge I can learn just from being Miss Navajo and preparing to become Miss Navajo. The other question that I was asked for this was, what will your platform be if selected as Miss Navajo Nation? And so they asked me, the Navajo can't send me or a yaha at ila besin zido. Ako sadden linigi asti iki a yakon the Navajo can't send me go a the nebe ina ike or in nini a basezido le. I told them that I will stand for our Navajo language, our Navajo culture, and who I am as a Dine woman, because that is who Miss Navajo Nation is, a young lady who epitomizes all of our female deities. That is who Miss Navajo Nation represents. And that's what I felt I should represent as Miss Navajo Nation, to help our people get back to a state of harmony, in a state of hope, and be that beacon of hope for my people. So that is how I spoke to them during this traditional knowledge competition. And so then we move on to day 3 of the competition, the contemporary skills, attire, impromptu question, and talent. The contemporary skill had a 10-minute time limit, and I demonstrated how to wire an electrical outlet, switch, and light fixture. And I did this with all the help of my dad, who some of you may know who are watching Gary Rockbridge. He works within the community and even outside of the community to help our people get the electrical services that they need. He's probably wired some of your houses. He's probably fixed some of the electrical work that needs to be redone around the community. So my dad is the one who taught me how to do all of this. And I probably worked at some of your houses before within the Pinon community. So he's the one who taught me how to wire these different components. And that's what I demonstrated for my contemporary skill competition. And following that competition, I did a contemporary attire and impromptu question. There's a 3-minute time limit, and a question asked was, describe a challenge young leaders are facing currently in the Navajo Nation. And as you can see there in the blue, red, and silver dress there, that's a dress made by a seamstress from the Tuba City area, but it was also refined by my mom. So we added some more things to it to make it to my liking. And when I was asked this question, I really thought about it, especially serving at the capacity of chair as the Navajo Nation Youth Council. I thought about what challenges I faced being a part of it. And how I answered this question was, as youth, we are often struggling to be heard by those of the older generation. And whenever we speak, whenever we express our opinions, we're often not heard or sometimes put by the wayside. And it's important to listen to our youth as they are our next generation and our next leaders. And so when talking about that, I always like to do the comparison of the amount of youth centers, which is 5, to the amount of senior centers there are across the Navajo Nation. So there are about 110 senior centers across the Navajo Nation, but there are only 5 youth centers across the entire Navajo Nation. So those were some of the things that I touched base on during the time of the impromptu question competition. And the contemporary talent that I did was discussing the various vaccines for sheep and horses. So I went over the type of different vaccines there are for sheep and for horses, because I know within the Pinon area and the Pinon community, there are a lot of sheep and there are a lot of horses. And I know we value that a lot. And so I wanted to go over those vaccines to help keep our animals and our community safe. And also I demonstrated how to give the different vaccines to animals. So the sheep and the horses, the subcutaneous and the intramuscular shot is what I demonstrated to them. And that can be seen here in the brown top and jean pants there. That's what I did for my contemporary talent of this competition. And then we move on, and basically it's the same day, we're still on. And it is the traditional skills, attire, impromptu, and talent. Traditional skill, there was a 10 time limit again, and I discussed and demonstrated the traditional growth of a corn stalk. And so I talked about how you can properly plant as a Navajo person, utilizing song, prayer, and teachings. That's what I did for this one. And toward the end of this competition, I sang a Nadant Bihi, and in hopes to having our people feel some type of hope again, and some type of realization that we are still here to express who we are as Indigenous people and follow our traditional values set by our ancestors. And so the next competition that I did was the traditional attire impromptu question. So the traditional attire that you can see there in the now Arizona flag, my mom created that flag and put it in form of the dress. So she created the Arizona flag dress for me when this competition came about. And each one of the silver buttons on this dress represent the 22 tribal nations there are in the state of Arizona. And I was so proud of that. So I had my mom make that dress for me. The question that I asked was, describe a challenge young leaders are currently facing in the Navajo Nation. With this one, they asked more of a question about what challenge young leaders are facing, and then they added on to that and decided to expand into elder abuse and how elder abuse is looked at on the Navajo Nation and how I feel about that. And so I talked about that for a little bit, and just talking about all the things that we know. You know, when first of the month comes around, Masan and Che are on their way to Gallup with all the grandkids, and they rarely have anything left for them at the end to get food or to help them throughout the month. So those were some of the things that I highlighted during the time that I was running. And I felt it was important to really be honest with my answers and to be real about what I was talking about, because I know these different things that face our people, and I know that they need help with it and need a voice. And so I felt it was really important to understand that and to express that. And then we moved on to after this, we moved on to the traditional talent. Again, I had another 10-minute time limit, and I discussed the significance of a traditional female hogan, a Hawana Maze, and I sang a song of teaching and the Untitled. So I expressed all of the significance about the Hawana Maze, why we have it, and all of these different aspects tied into a Hawana Maze. And I sang the traditional Na'antian being, a sacred song of teaching, in order to understand why I was talking about Hawana Maze, to really think about it. That's where all of the teachings occur within our homes. And there's a song when teaching a child, there's a song when teaching anybody. And that's the one that I wanted to show and express when running for Miss Navajo. And after that, that was the last day of competition there. But after that, I did the coronation day. And we all came up on stage. We were all nervous. We really didn't know what was going to unfold. The crown that you see there and the one that I'm wearing now, we didn't know that new one was actually going to be presented until we got on stage. And until I was crowned did I know we had a new crown in the mix, and that was going to be going forward as the next Miss Navajo Nation crown. So as we went along and we went into placing, I got the categories of Best Busher, Best Traditional Food, Best Essay, and Miss Photogenic. And of course, attaining the title of Miss Navajo Nation 2021-2022. And there below, standing with Miss Parrish, is what I received, an entire hickory knife set saying that I'm Miss Navajo Nation Best Butcher, and that's the category that I won there. And then in the middle there, you can see me being crowned as Miss Navajo Nation by former Miss Navajo Shandine Parrish. And there is the first official photo of me becoming Miss Navajo Nation. And it was very important to me. It was so significant to me because when you hear of the community of Pinon, people express their negative comments and things like that about our community. And I often don't like when people do that, and I like to educate them. So this moment was so significant to me because now it was showing Pinon has something to offer. Pinon is here to make a stance and say we are still following our traditional ways, and we are still strong Diné people within this community, regardless of the negative and the negative comments and the negativity surrounding the things like that. When people talk about Pinon, it was very important for me in this time, and I felt almost every emotion that you could think of. I was elated, I was happy, I was just so amazed to feel that sense of accomplishment of becoming Miss Navajo. And it's like you truly feel the weight of the Navajo Nation when you are being crowned Miss Navajo. So my platform going forward in this coronation, and then also, for the next 1 year, is preserving our Diné way of life by utilizing the concept of family unity in hopes of harmonizing our homes, communities, and Navajo Nation. Ko e ya the Navaj e kent nishlo e yaha the Navazad, the Nava e on if the Nava Nantin e basazin dole. Benina niki e yaha ko Yoske sad, dot iji sad, ichile sad, ashini sad, hadadin sad. Hawana mazabi yito na antin hahilahi. Indeta e yaha kon hi e o if e nasko yaat eko and saha kes yaat eko o das e ben hasezito. Akot au she called asa anachage shananish ashleto this. in the da ya con hit khatada shato hit hit yash hit dole na khase zin dole akot out yaha con shanan nishiki ad aitan shleto shinkon asla ana khijin akot out shanan nish shleto ako wa'azo bashil wajja shiliat shil inne ikot out the nebaj selling ako the nebaj jilin go in the ya the nebaj jilon do the nebaj do in the Dutch jilin go do what's on neshit ela ako the nebaya just kitle the nebaj zile akot out ba akoni zin ako kodo wazad والباهوزن go wana antin wa all il والباهوزن go donant asle akot the shnile the nebaj yashkil the nebaj yashkil go ashon de ko amado aja amasane ache anala no sini ashon de the neck edgo na haalchene ni hit soke ni hit nalike Babich Jans bint die dahos had the late naste benan nisselnico yahado do banant adoles in the yaha carbon antien be all is in lini benachet bezil doles and sin akot out she ban sas kes ako kodon hizad and linigi nationeska get out the in the nebazad at the in the nebazad akot an khayla ako the johnny ye go it's up do in the ya ashi ani ko nan ase oh shinde ati bohosh the nebazadiki in the yaha akwijo be yasht go in the akot be yasht go dod akwijo kot the nebaj yasht go akonehde akot the nebaza bohosh in the ya shanalish bijadan liningi akot nationalist go in the akot shiyaho go the akot the nebaza be yasht sadly do jilbehos and selling not at the bohosh sad kidan sad dan linigi as is go jilbehos and the do kashina now she do jilbehos and at the bohosh ako kon nige or is nige na antkin and linigi nige yaha nige yajan dan linigi nige tsu nige nala dan ni bedan bent doles akot bebich yanski ashon de amasan che anala amado aja enofine ashon akot halchin ni hit so kan ni nala ke bebich yanski the alchina dan linigi bin sekes yahado cho on sadake alchina dan linigi ako the nebazad iki do the neba or is the neba na antkiniki with behos and godi the neb the belagana bazadiki belagana oltsaki donant asla do jonant asla akot shaba kunisi akot yahadi and le Pinon high school de at khahin strand akot ba kunisi ida ako if I can do it you can do it akot I like to speak to the youth in that manner and in that fashion ako kachi yaha ko belagana bazadigi eshi beni hadeste. It is just a great honor and a privilege to be here with you today talking about how my journey went to becoming Miss Navajo Nation. And it's very important to understand that this entire process in this journey did not happen overnight. Like I said in my presentation, there is 17 years of pageant experience that I have. But just because that I have that amount of experience doesn't mean that you need to have that amount of experience to become Miss Navajo. I'm just letting you know what my journey was like. To my little sisters, my little brothers, it's important to know that what got me to becoming Miss Navajo is knowing my language, knowing my culture, and knowing who I am. It's important to carry that on and preserve that, as that's what makes us who we are as Diné people. That is what helps us sustain our sovereignty and continue to persevere in every aspect. We always talk about sovereignty here on the nation. We always talk about how much we're different than everyone else across the 574 tribes. What sets us apart is that we still have our language and we still have our culture. And while it is still here, take advantage of it, to learn it, to take pride in it, because without that, what is our sovereignty going to look like? This is the true reality of what we're facing, my little brothers and my little sisters. This marks a milestone for me in becoming Miss Navajo, but it also helps you. Maybe you're from the Pinon area, maybe you're from the Hupawel area, wherever it is that you come from. It's important to know that I represent you as the goodwill ambassador of the Navajo Nation. I'm not here to promote everything it is that, only the things that I want. I'm here to hear you. I'm here to hear what you have to say. Take that back to our leaders so that I can help in a much bigger way than just one person to one person. And it's always important to know that even though I'm Miss Navajo, I was just like you one day. One of the days, I was like you, going to school every day, catching the bus every day, staying after school for track practice, for volleyball practice, all of these different things. I was just like you, and you can be just like me if you want to be the leader for our people, to be the next president of the Navajo Nation, to be our lawyer, to be our doctor, to be the next teacher, our bus driver, whatever it is that you want to do and that you want to be, you can do it. It's all within your own hands to do something like that and to make our community proud and make our people proud and make your families proud. That is who we are as Diné people. That is preserving our Diné way of life, utilizing the concept of family unity, that the kinship. Always remember that. And, hoping of harmonizing our homes, that hujo aspect, keeping our families within balance, not yelling at one another, not getting mad at one another, loving one another, respecting one another, cherishing one another. All of these different things are what combines into this me being Miss Navajo. Is not only me being Miss Navajo, but it's our own traditional teachings that have gotten us to this point. And so, with that being said, I think it's important for you to understand that you are smart, you are capable, you are intelligent, and you are cherished and you are loved by me, by your family, by anyone out there. It's important to know that you belong here and that you will help make our people great and help make our great Navajo Nation continue to be the top nation out there. And so with that being said, I'll go ahead and move on to my last slide. You're probably wondering, what have you been doing since being crowned Miss Navajo Nation? And I have done so much work since being crowned Miss Navajo Nation. I have a stack of papers about that thick in my secretary's desk over there. and we just got some more here recently. But since being crowned Miss Navajo, I have moved to Window Rock, and they provide housing for me and they take care of me here. And I began work at my office in the Navajo Nation Museum. So if you're in the Window Rock area, stop by the museum, stop by my office, and I'd be more than willing to talk to you, take a picture, you know, things like that. And I attend events virtually like the one that I'm doing right now. And then I also do some in person. So I go out, as you can see down below, the different things that I usually do. I went to the Division of Economic Development retirement for individuals who are retiring. And I think the longest that one had been there was about 47 years. And, you know, thinking about working for the Navajo Nation for 47 years is something that I can't imagine right now, but it is something that I want to do and continue my work helping my people like this. And so the next picture in the middle is actually my very, very first event with the president. And that was during the division directors meeting that Monday that I moved to Window Rock. So September 13, I moved to Window Rock. And this at 7 o'clock in the morning, he asked me to be there to be introduced, and everyone rose out of their seats as I walked in and they clapped. That was one of the most touching things that I have ever experienced as Miss Navajo thus far. Seeing our nation's leaders honor me in that way, including the president, including the vice president. It was so touching for me because it's like I have accomplished something that I set my mind to. And that feeling is something, you know, I cannot describe, and as something I feel as that I will always remember during, even after my reign as Miss Navajo comes an end. And the picture that you see there on the side with a bunch of people there, that picture actually is at Intech, Navajo Transitional Energy. I was there yesterday, and I had to get to Intech yesterday early in the morning, actually 7:30 in the morning, I had to get there. And I distributed 100 bags of free coal to the surrounding communities. And I gave out gloves to the communities as well. I toured Intech. I was able to talk with the CEO of Intech, all of the things that they do, such as, you know, after they do the mining and the coal mining, they reclaim the land and basically try to restore it to what it was before, if not better, you know, learning about all of these different things. And even after this, we went to Napi, and we went to see them and film some other things that we're doing. And so I was honored to do a ribbon cutting and opening that for Intech yesterday. And just to give you a kind of inside scoop of what my schedule usually looks like, let's say 2 days ago, I am working on multiple different projects to continue my platform, and then also with other different departments and divisions, and continuing that partnership with them. So I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I had to get ready, and I had to be out of this house be out of my apartment by 6. I actually had to be at my event at 6:30 in the morning. And I filmed from 6:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock, and I had a meeting. I got back to my office. I had a meeting from 9 to 10:45. And then from 10:45 to 11, I had a little bit of leeway time there. I got some breakfast, whatever it is that I could. At 11 o'clock, I left, and I had to be down to Albuquerque after it was approved by the Office of the President and Vice President for off-reservation travel during Indigenous Peoples Day. I had to go down there and go there for the Indigenous Peoples Day with the city of Albuquerque. So we had to leave from here, and then we got there, and we stayed there all day, and we stayed there with the president. We partook in the event and everything that was going on there. And we didn't leave from there until about 8:30. And so I didn't get home, actually about 9:30. So I didn't get home until actually almost midnight. And then I had to be up again that next day at 5 o'clock, ready to go again for my next event. So being Miss Navajo, you don't really sleep a lot, but is all in goodwill because you're helping your people in however way it is that you can. So, just giving you an inside look of what it's like to be Miss Navajo early morning and late nights. I hope it helps you understand what encompasses becoming Miss Navajo, because you are not a princess. You are not someone who smiles, waves, and takes pictures. You do, and in order to be, friendly with the people, but most importantly, you are there to be an actual leader and advocate for your people. And so that includes being up early in the morning, going to sleep late, doing it again all over the same day. But I'm glad and I'm happy that I'm doing this and doing this for my people and representing both of my communities of Pinon and Cottonwood in this way. And so again, I just like to thank the coordinators and the individuals involved in putting this event together for me. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you all and partaking in some more events that will be coming here soon. And again, I just like to say yahat and thank you so much to everyone for allowing me to come on today and share my story and what my journey was like becoming Miss Navajo. So akon sago yaha nihij ahasti dole endeta yako ati yaha the kosin sa ginahast eight ada ati kon hit khahullo ako Pod ashonde nihit la kala wash bet hada kiss in the ya hand sanitizer so chotas in the ya kon hit chain is it abik itaski or kon the never care a go tada do kat ashonde is social distancing a thought a topic off in the ya kon hinat ani bizarre and lineage ashonde big off in a thought a consago yaha nihij ha street dole di ahalo shene it di hala ya yonin shno hinchne chamasane che shenale chamado je chadeje sitsele chadeshna chahas twish zani no thini a yonin shno hinchne binina kot yaha a consago nihij ha street dole do a shet non gedini to